Hey, everybody. How's it going? We're live.
That is correct.
Yes, that is correct. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, October 6th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. The Chicago Federation of Labor, our sponsors. The Chicago Teachers Union sponsor this program, as well as Chicago Reader. ChicagoReader.com for all things there is to know the city of Chicago. Where to go, what to do, what to eat, what kind of pot to smoke, and so much more. Go check it out. Chicago Reader, ChicagoReader.com. Subscribe, and you can help out the Ben Joravsky Show if you'd like. ChicagoReader.com/Joravsky, J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y, and you can be a Benhead. It is Wednesday, September 6th, and live from my apartment and his Airbnb in lovely Los Angeles, California, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson, and we welcome back Lakesia Collins. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Isaiah Thomas was right Wednesday, and here's why. Because Isaiah Thomas was right. That's why. Before I get to that, I just want to say Monroe Anderson has already joined us. I love it when my guests come early. Actually, my guest hasn't come early. We had some technical difficulties before the show started, so we're a little late. Anyway, before I bring Monroe on, I just want to relate this really quick tale. Monroe, I hope you're listening, because last night my beloved Bulls were on TV and they were victorious. Yes, the Chicago basketball season has begun, even if it's just preseason. And yes, it's really too early for me to get too excited about the Bulls, but I am very excited. They absolutely annihilated the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, trounced them. It was a humiliating loss for Cleveland. I texted all my friends from Cleveland. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They always got something big to say about when the Cleveland Browns beat the Chicago Bears. Oh, they were talking, pounding their chests. Not one of them responded. They all went into hiding. Anyway, it's too early to get excited about the Bulls, but I will say this. Isaiah Thomas, the former standout superstar for the Detroit Pistons, who grew up in Chicago on the west side of Chicago, played his basketball at St. Joseph's High School, kind of not liked in his hometown because he refused to shake hands. Monroe Anderson remembers this. In 1991, when the Bulls defeated the Pistons 4-0, Isaiah slunk off the court with Bill Laimbeer. I told you, Isaiah, don't listen to Laimbeer. Only get in trouble when you listen to rich Republicans. Anyway, Isaiah is not really loved in Chicago, but last night he was so good on the TV. I have to give him credit. They were having a discussion about the reluctance of a certain Kyrie Irving, a superstar in the NBA, a guard for the Brooklyn Nets. Monroe, I know you don't really follow basketball, but this guy's a superstar, and he's hesitant. That's what we're now supposed to call people who are hesitant to take the vaccination. I don't know what the hesitation is. It's only been around since February. Monroe Anderson was like first in line to take it. He looks fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I see him every Wednesday. The guy got 2 shots. Kyrie Irving, if you got any doubts about the vaccine, just call Monroe. Anyway, so he's hesitant. He's not quite. This is the same Kyrie Irving, by the way. I just want to point this out when Monroe, who said the guy went to Duke. So he obviously did well in high school and did well on the ACTs or the SATs or whatever. But he said the world was flat.
Or he was a good basketball player.
Well, valid point. He said the world was flat. Okay, then he had to retract that statement.
Yeah, he definitely was a good basketball player.
So, Monroe, why would anybody listen to Isaiah Thomas when it comes to science anyway? But anyway, so here's the thing, Monroe, that really annoys me. You know where I'm going with this. That this whole thing about millennials, they just refuse to shame each other. So he says this preposterous thing that could potentially endanger people's health because somebody might actually listen to him and do what he says. And that is that he's not going to take the vaccine. I don't know, whatever. He must have read something somewhere or heard something somewhere on YouTube. Who knows?
Facebook.
Facebook, yes. We'll talk about Facebook. So Monroe, all the other basketball players are like, well, I don't, he has his right to his beliefs, and I support him in his beliefs. I'm like, are you kidding me? I know this is the rantings of an old man, Monroe, who lives in fear of getting this freaking virus. Guys, it's not about your liberties. It's about protecting yourself and your family. People like me and Monroe, old timers, you know what I'm saying? It's not about your sacred right to do whatever you want. Like if you want to wear blue jeans to work or a t-shirt to work, that's like a sacred liberty. Anyway, Isaiah Thomas corrected him.
You're free to be stupid. That's it.
Yeah, you're free to be stupid. Anyway, Isaiah Thomas last night, after Channing Frye, who was another guest on the show, again, a millennial basketball player, ex-basketball player, gave this usual line that I respect whatever Kyrie says. Isaiah Thomas, just in a very respectful way, said, Channing, I completely disagree with you. And then he laid out the reasons why he disagreed with him. And the reasons had to do with just everything you just said, Monroe, the health concern. And then Isaiah Thomas said, Kyrie, I'm appealing to you, not as a basketball player, not as a superstar, not as somebody that the Brooklyn Nets need to win, but as a human being. You should. What is that sound? Huh. And that you should be caring about the health of yourself, your family, your loved ones, et cetera, and so forth. I thought it was a really good appeal to make. But not only was he respectful of Kyrie in a way, like he's saying he cares more about him as an individual than as a basketball player, but he also made it clear that he wasn't going to pander to Kyrie Irving. And I just like that. I like the fact that he wasn't going to pander to him. And then he said, Monroe, the words really important. He goes, I've been vaccinated twice. I can't wait to get the booster. This thing works. If you believe otherwise, it's part of a brainwashing. He didn't say that. I said that, but that was his sort of like paraphrase. And Monroe, I've really come to believe that. And we'll start with this, with the Facebook hearings that yesterday in Congress. I really have come to believe that a good chunk of America has been brainwashed
by lies, and Facebook has been a super villain in this thing. Zuckerman.
Mark Zuckerberg, yes.
Yeah, Zuckerberg, yeah. I think I've mentioned this before, but my nephew, 49-year-old nephew, voted for Trump off of what he had gotten from what he had gotten off of Facebook. He was hanging out in the wrong crowd. And when I learned that, my sister called me really upset about his having voted for Trump and wanted me to talk to him. And I said, well, it's too late. He's already voted for him, but she still wanted me to talk to him. So I talked to him and asked him why. And he said, well, it was on Facebook and he saw it on Facebook and everything. I said to him, I'm on Facebook. You should have read me instead of whoever you read.
Yeah, the whistleblower Hagen, who was on 60 Minutes this weekend and testified in front of Congress yesterday, was really right on Monroe, and she said it so clearly and very eloquently and articulated herself the point very clearly that it's all about money for Facebook. They get those clicks, they feed whatever they know. They know they feed the right crowd, the right information. They'll click on it and they'll make more money, and that's all that matters.
Right. It's the algorithms. That's what it is. And they know which ones to load up. And it gets them a lot of clicks. And what's about to happen, because we finally have something both Democrats and Republicans agree on, is that big media, social media, has gotten too big for its britches, and that it needs to be regulated. And they're calling it a tobacco moment.
Okay, so before we get too carried away with this bipartisanship, because I've seen those stories, I've read those stories, I've seen those headlines, and let me make this distinction between Democrats and Republicans and get your response.
Okay.
As you said that, Donald Trump one of the biggest purveyors of liars, the most powerful purveyor of lies
He's
in this
not.
country.
He's not one of.
Okay,
He
number
is
one.
the one.
He's number one because he's got the biggest microphone. And even if he doesn't realize it, Kyrie Irving has been impacted by it because there's a residual collateral effect that reaches a lot of people. But you're right. So, and let me remind everybody, Donald Trump started this political game talking about Obama not being born in the United States. So that's where it began, with him spreading the lies. Republicans right now, Donald Trump is in court trying to force Twitter to put him back on Twitter. So he wants the right. He claims the right to go onto Twitter, to go onto Facebook and spread whatever misinformation he wants. He says he has a First Amendment protected right to do that. He's in court suing to do that. To get that back on Twitter. Monroe, that's much different. That's the exact opposite of what Haugen is saying. The Facebook whistleblower was saying to Congress. She's saying that's exactly the kind of thing that Facebook and Twitter should be guarding against. I think when I see that Republicans and Democrats they say, oh, they're together on this, they're talking about two different things. Republicans are talking about the right to say whatever you want on Facebook, as opposed to Democrats saying reining it in. Go ahead.
Yeah, what the Republicans are also doing is they're protesting Facebook and Twitter because they say that they discriminate against right wingers, and so they want to make them stop, quote, discriminating, it's air quotes, against right wing lying comments. The left is concerned about Instagram in particular because it's like a mean girls thing, high school thing, multiplied by millions. And so what happens is these 14-year-olds, they go on Instagram and they don't look like the some of the girls who are on, or they are some of the stars, and they get body shamed, and they just feel like really crap. Yeah. I think it's 6 or 7% suicidal as a result of Instagram. 14-year-olds.
Yeah. No, and
not a good thing.
Yeah, and the more susceptible you are to that kind of shaming, the more addicted you are to the platform because you just want to see those perfect bodies. And Facebook knows what it's doing, and that's what Haugen was saying. They know exactly what they're doing. They don't care if it's destroying the fabric of our country. They just want to make some money.
Right. Well, what Facebook is doing reminds me of the Catholic Church in the sense that the Catholic Church says, give us the first 7 years of their life and we have them forever. Facebook is doing that with these preteens. If they can get them hooked on one of their products, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, if Zuckerberg can do that, then he will have them forever. That's his thinking. And he's in competition with YouTube and Google and some other platforms. And he's worried about losing some of that audience to them. Now, keep in mind, Facebook has 3.5 billion people. There are only 9 billion human beings on the earth. So they have more than a third of all the human beings on the earth. And this is why they have got to regulate this, because one man with that much power is not a good thing for human beings.
Or one corporation with that much power is not.
Well, no, Zuckerberg is a corporation.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody, and in fact, if he called me up tomorrow and said, Monroe, how about for 300,000 a year? You be on my board. You come in and nod your head. I might be at the table.
Might? I don't even think it'll take 300,000. You know what would be a great? Just think about how great the world would be, Monroe. That if Zuckerberg had my numbers in terms of media reach, and the Ben Joravsky Show had Facebook number. Man, can you imagine if 3.5 billion people were tuning into Monroe Anderson on Wednesdays? Whoa.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This would, my speaking fee would be much higher.
I may have to double your salary.
Right, exactly, right.
All right. So I'm going to really try to resist talking more about the idiocy of celebrities and how Facebook promotes it all. And let's get into some political discussion. So I'll give you the option. Do we start with the evilness of the Republicans, or do we start with the feebleness of Democrats? Which one do you want to discuss first? Feeble Democrats, evil Republicans?
Well, we can talk about them both because for years now on the Ben Joravsky Show, I have been pointing out that Republicans are back shooters. They will catch you in the alley at midnight and shoot you in the back. And the Democrats are by the rule types. They want to have a duel at high noon where you stand back to back and you count off 10 paces, then you turn around and somebody says fire, and you fire. and the Republicans say, to hell with that. I want you dead. So that's what I'm going to do, is make sure that you're dead as soon as possible. And the Democrats are getting a little smarter. They're now staying out of the alley at midnight as much as they can, so they will be easy targets for the Republicans. But they need to, and they're getting closer to it, carving out a way to get some of this stuff done. They're going to carve out the filibuster.
Okay, listen.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to hold you off there. First of all, I love your analogy, and then the beauty of the analogy is that every time that there's another duel, the Democrats forget what happened in the duel before. Okay, just let's point that out. So, and then they're always act surprised that the Republicans have cheated and shot them.
Right.
And then they do what I do, and many Democrats do. They point out the hypocrisy of the Republicans, to which, as I always point out, our dear friend Sam Holloway, who's far to the left of both of us, always says, Ben, fascists don't care if you call them hypocrites. They just want to win. Okay, right. That's all they care about.
Right.
All right. So there's one simple way.
In fact, they're hypocrites and proud of it.
Yes.
It's not a shaming thing for them. So, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, but I do what I need.
Yeah. So we get to the basic issue, which has been the basic issue from the moment that Joe Biden was sworn in as president and had a 50-50 tie in the Senate that he had to deal with. It was the filibuster. And you and I have been saying, get rid of the filibuster. And the Democrats, I to some certain degree, I blame Biden, because Biden ran as that moderate, bipartisan believer in the rules of the Senate, and that he believed in the filibuster. He didn't want to declare that he was against the filibuster. He did that as a candidate, that cautiousness, that fear that he would look too partisan.
This is so, wait a minute. You're not being fair to Biden.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wait. You're Bernie, bro. I forgot it. Why would you be fair to Biden? I forgot about that part. Anyway, Biden was in the Senate for 40 years.
Yeah.
So just like you've been in journalism and I've been in journalism 40 years or so, we have an ingrained ethic where we believe in trying to be honest, trying to report the facts etc. If you do something for 40 years, we're curious about things. You do it, then that's what you come with. By the time you wherever you go, that's what you have. You're not gonna be an old dog learning new tricks at that time.
Okay.
Journalists.
All right. Look, this defense of Biden is going nowhere. First of all, believe it or not, this is going to stun you. When Joe Biden first got elected to the Senate, I was in high school. That's how much. That's how old he is.
Right.
I was in high school.
Right.
I wasn't even doing journalism except for reading it. All right. So, Monroe, here's the reality. The Democrats. This just gets back to the issue of the Democrats think it's a duel, and Republicans just think it's a street fight. The Democrats have this fear, this notion that they have to show that they're above partisanship and that they're fair and they're bipartisan. And we see that with the rhetoric here in the state of Illinois with some dim-witted reformers in Illinois talk about fair maps. You see that Texas map? I said, oh my God, Monroe. The notion of fair maps, it just shows you how clueless
Harold
Democrats are.
Washington was fairer than fair.
Yeah, look at what Harold Washington was, the most fair mayor the city of Chicago had ever.
Right.
Before or since, greatest mayor the city of Chicago had. You and I both know that, even though you're a little biased for Sawyer. Even you have to admit Harold was the greatest.
Yeah, right. No, Harold was greater than Sawyer. I just think that Sawyer has been
unfairly maligned by history. All right, but I don't want to go down that. But what I'm saying is, so going back, so the Democrats want to show that they're partisan. I mean, that they're bipartisan. And it's like to prove somehow or other, if they show they're bipartisan, Fox TV will say, well, you got to give them credit. And Democrats, Fox TV will never do that.
Democrats are not looking for approval from Fox TV. That is not what they're doing.
Well, who are they looking for approval from then when they talk about being bipartisan?
Those Democrats, minority Democrats at that, who want to keep the filibuster, are afraid that when the Republicans get back in and they don't have a filibuster, that they will be uncontrollable. The reality is they already are uncontrollable. They scuttled the filibuster to steal 3 Supreme Court seats when they needed to. So for the Democrats to worry about what the Republicans might be, be like one spouse not fooling around on the other for fear that that spouse will start fooling around, and the other spouse is like every chance he or she gets is doing what they're doing, while the other one's trying to behave.
Absolutely, and we see that right now playing out with the January 6th investigation. We were talking about this very briefly before we went on the air, Monroe. I know you want to address this. Subpoenas have been sent out. The investigators, the congressional investigators, want certain information about who is in alliance with who. And Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader of the House, says, okay, guys, you do this to us. When we get in charge, we're going to do it to you. And I'm like, you did it. How many years?
Yeah.
How many years of investigation did Hillary Clinton did?
Right. You did it to us. And when you get back in, you're going to do it some more to us. Right. And with McCarthy, he just said, this is what we're going to do when we get back in. And, God, I'm forgetting her name now. Trump's former press secretary,
Stephanie Grisham.
She says that when Trump gets back, if Trump gets back into office, it's going to be a whole revenge thing. That's all his whole next term is going to be about taking revenge on those who's on his enemies list, because he won't even have to worry about getting reelected.
Yeah.
This will be his second term, and so he can be triple evil.
Absolutely. By the way, I got a text from Lakesia Collins, State Representative Lakesia Collins. She's waiting for her invite. She'll get that invite. We'll bring her on a little bit. We'll talk local politics. I know probably a lot of people want to hear what Monroe has to think about Kim Foxx, State Senator Secretary. I can't even get it right. State's Attorney Kim Foxx and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. We'll get into that when Lakesia joins us. So we'll continue the national conversation before she does join us. So let's go back to the Republicans and the Democrats in the House. So you see how the Republicans have played the game. They're going to get revenge on the Democrats. There's no question if they take control of the House. And right now I'm a little nervous, Monroe. You know, I don't know. I said this to you last time. I don't know if this is what the Democrats just do. If they figured out that the way to get their voters to the polls is to scare them, to fear, to incite them by fear. But right now, I am nervous about the.
The Democrats have a House divided. That's the problem, and as Ben Franklin said famously, either they hang together or surely they will hang separately.
Yeah.
And you have Manchin, and I understand what he's doing. I mean, Trump got 40% more than Biden in his state, in West Virginia, and so it's a very right-wing state, and so he's bragging about not being a liberal but being a moderate. That's what the Blue Dog Democrats are now calling themselves.
State Representative Lakesia Collins has joined us. State Representative Lakesia Collins has joined us. Before we bring her on to talk some local news, to talk about CPS and COVID response, to talk about crime in the city of Chicago, talk about State's Attorney Kim Foxx and Lori Lightfoot, all those others issues today. Monroe, I got to ask you this.
Yes.
You pointed something out to me that I just had shaking my head, and this gets to the cowardice of the Republican Party. The cowardice of the Republican Party. Now, and we talked to the Democrats. They don't even have uniformity, even when it comes to passing basic infrastructure. Apparently, Sinema and Joe Manchin can't see eye to eye. But the Republicans are so afraid of Donald Trump that former Vice President Mike Pence, who was threatened by the insurrectionists, that's who they were going after.
Yeah, they were going to lynch him.
Yeah, they were going to lynch him. This man is such a coward.
He's going to be lynched.
So you were the one pointing out to me, go ahead, tell folks that Pence is backing off on his criticism of Trump. Well, we agree on most things.
Right. And now his latest thing, he was on Fox last night or night before. I forget which one. But he was on and he was asked about this. And he says that the media is focused on that one night, as in June 6th, when they tried to lynch him. And because they want to make Trump voters look bad. The media.
Yeah.
And
now he's blaming the media.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's an easy target, but it is so ridiculous. And they aren't going to vote for Pence. They don't. If 9 months ago, if they wanted to lynch him, they might not want to lynch him anymore, but they're not going to want him for president.
No, he's through with the Republican Party. When the
thing is, the reason Pence ran with Trump, because nobody else would, or no legitimate Republican, but he ran with him because he was going to be unemployed. He was not going to be governor of Indiana again because he did such a crappy job. And so he went with Trump, and then he became his boy Friday.
Yeah. And if you recall, Donald Trump in part picked Mike Pence because Mike Pence had deep ties to the evangelical portion of the Republican base,
Yes.
vehemently against abortion rights, vehemently against gay rights. And so that was Trump's way of trying to reassure the evangelicals that just because he was a party boy from New York City.
And just because he grabbed a pussy every now and then.
Yes. And probably, we don't know this, but I would not be surprised if he paid for some abortions in his time.
Oh,
Probably because you put that all in the rear view mirror. And now, but you know the funny thing, Monroe? I will close with this. He didn't even have to do that because the white evangelical community in this country lined up behind Trump anyway, despite all his moral flaws. He told them that he was gonna be against abortion, and that's all it took.
Right. Well,
so he didn't need Pence.
And no, and you cannot discount the racism.
Yeah,
you cannot. It's I can't remember who said this, but somebody said the most segregated moment of time in America's in a given week is Sundays between noon and 3 or something when they have the sermons.
Yes, I'll tell you who said that. Dr. Martin Luther King. That's who said that.
Yeah,
the most segregated moment in America, most segregated time in America is Sunday afternoon at church.
Right.
All right, we're going to bring on State Representative Lakesia Collins, the pride and joy of the West Side of Chicago, to join the conversation. We're going to tilt things more away from national to local. Lakesia Collins, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are you?
All right. I'm doing well. Welcome back to the show. That good-looking man on the left up there, or right, I guess, is the legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson, who joins me every Wednesday here in the city on the Ben Joravsky Show.
Hey.
All right.
Hi, Monroe.
So let's start with what you wanted to talk about, which fits in, Lakesia, with what I want to talk about and with what Monroe and I have been talking about for a long time. In general, it's response to the COVID pandemic, and more particular, it's the response of the Chicago public schools. Now, people should know this right up front. My show is sponsored in part, God bless them, the Chicago Teachers Union. SDG, Stacey Davis Gates, is a regular on my show. Monroe's smiling because he knows it's true. And he's been on with her in the past. And I'll say this, Stacey's come on the show, and so is Troy LaRaviere, Lakesia, who's with the Principals Association. Mm-hmm. And from the get-go, they have both of them, principals and teachers, seeing eye to eye that they don't have faith in the Chicago public schools to guard kids, parents, teachers, teachers' aides, and principals from the virus. They just have no faith. And Mayor Lori Lightfoot and whoever was in charge at the public schools and whoever's on the board has essentially told them, be quiet, have faith. We know what you're doing. Just go back in that classroom. And we're starting to see evidence that things aren't as safe as the mayor and her team would have us believe. Why don't you get a little more specific and tell Monroe and myself and the listeners what's going on in particular on the West Side? Go ahead.
So, one, thank you, Ben, for this platform to give us a chance to talk about, real politics, right? Not sugarcoat around anything. But so what's happening in Chicago with CPS is that I've gotten on plenty of calls with the mayor, her staff, advocates and families, right? I represent the West Side of Chicago and parts of the North Side. And my district in particular is very disproportionately resourced from the school systems, the access, all of that is just disproportionate. And so my fear as a mother of 3 students who attend CPS, that we were going to see a rise in COVID. We were also going to see, unfortunately, some families die, right? Or a family member die. And so what happened at Jensen, which resides in my district, there were 2 mothers who contracted the virus from their children, and they passed away. Don't quote me on it. I think it was a week from each other or something like that. But one of the moms actually wrote on social media that no one contacted her, that there were no testing and all sorts of things that we knew, CPS just wouldn't do. They kept saying, oh, we're going to put all these safety protocols in place. I remember the mayor, she advocated a lot for it. But again, CPS failed us, right? And so here we are mourning over the loss of two mothers who one of the mothers said in her status, like, I've been doing every safety protocol all this time. And now you send my child home, but no one tells me, or no one calls me or anything. And so the lack of, testing in the schools, those shops wasn't even set up. They promised that they were going to do that. They promised they were going to do the testing. We still have a shortage of substitute teachers. So they're still dealing with, broken promises. And so I'm disgusted with it. I know I was at a school yesterday on the near north side. Luckily, they were doing testing there. But again, it should have never gotten to that point. And we're constantly getting alerts on our phones. I know for me as a mom, where someone could have possibly contracted COVID, or where classrooms are now being quarantined. At Jensen alone, there were 11 classroom quarantined out of 17. That's a problem. And so there has to be some accountability somewhere, and it just doesn't seem like there's any accountability with this, with CPS.
As far as you know, is CPS responsive to requests and calls and concerns from teachers and parents, or is it sort of that bureaucratic response of, we know, we'll stand by, we'll give you more information, we have it, we're in charge of things, we know what's going on, we hear what you're saying, stand by, we hear what you're saying. You know that refrain, Lakesia. It's been a while, by the way, since I've been a parent of a kid in the system, but I know that's the way it was when I was a parent. Go ahead.
It doesn't change. The times are changing, but the narrative with CPS has never changed. I don't think it will, honestly, because there's no real accountability with them. They're their own entity, right? As far as the board is concerned, I know our mayor, does have control over that. But again, she even stated that she was disappointed in how things were going. And so for me as a mother who fear, her children going to school every day and possibly bringing the virus home, it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. They need to make sure that they're sanitizing, they're disinfecting these schools. They need to make sure that they're doing real follow-up calls, that they're doing the testing, that they're getting more support staff into these buildings. It's the list is so long, right? It's ridiculous. But that happens in the city of Chicago, predominantly on the west side and south sides of Chicago. So there is definitely some strings there.
All right.
That's happening.
I want to throw this out there and get your response to it. And I would like to get Monroe's response as well. I am a believer in mandates when it comes to the vaccine. And I watch how this has been unfolding. Monroe and I were talking about this before we went on the air, Lakesia. I was talking about United Airlines, and they had a mandate that all their employees had to get the vaccine. And at first there was resistance from some of the employees. We're going, we got our liberties and blah, 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 blah. Now, last I saw, I believe it's 99% of employees. It's over 90%, whatever it is. I can't get maybe the exact number.
It's between 96 and 99.
Wow. Okay. Of the employees. Now they won't go so far. Here's where we get into the funny stuff, Lakesia. They won't go so far as to say passengers have to have the vaccine because they know the resistance, and maybe passengers will go to the American Airlines. You get what I'm saying? They don't want to lose money on it. So that's we go so far, but
according to the United CEO, they encourage their passengers to wear a mask.
Well, no, you got to wear a mask.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can't get in an airport without a mask. I just was in an airport.
Right.
You walk in, you got to put the mask in the airport, and they'll kick you off the plane if you take your mask off. So here's where I'm going with this. I'll start with Lakesia Collins, State Representative Lakesia Collins, and I'll go to Monroe. I'm at the position where I believe the city of Chicago should implement a vaccine mandate for all adults. Obviously, children have not been cleared to get the vaccination. All adults who go into a Chicago school, the employees, every employee, every parent, And really, what's the age now? What's the cutoff? 15? Is that what it is?
12.
For kids.
Well,
Your response, your thoughts on that, State Representative Collins, and then we'll turn it over to Monroe. Go.
So yeah, it is definitely a touchy situation. I mean, we're getting a lot of pushback from some folks who believe that we're trying to take away their rights, right? But the reality is that we've lost too many lives during this pandemic that could have been prevented, right? And I'm a firm believer that, your rights is your rights, but we're talking about a virus that is killing thousands of people, children, like it's no discrimination, our seniors, our loved ones, and in my communities that I represent, because the reporting of the virus is so high, and because there are a lot of health conditions because of the environments that folks live in, it is important that families go out and get vaccinated and get their kids vaccinated as well. So yes, I mean, I'm vaccinated and my sons are vaccinated too, except for my 8-year-old, which I'm concerned about that because he has asthma and he's going into a school where they're possibly not going by safety protocols. And so with him, he catches it. My fear is that I would have to be preparing for a funeral for an 8-year-old. Right, that's just the reality that we're all living in. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and protecting the folks that are around us too. So, yes.
All right, Monroe, your thoughts.
My thoughts are that they've had vaccinations to get into school to begin with. In kindergarten, there's certain measles. It's a bunch of diseases that are transmittable, that they have to be vaccinated against before they get to go to school. This is just a new virus and a new vaccination, and it's much deadlier than those other ones that they're required to take. So it makes no sense whatsoever. And this whole freedom argument is crazy. Your freedom stops at your ability to kill me by giving me a disease. So this is I don't even understand the logic that's going down with this.
But I also think, Monroe, is just a lack of education too, and then you have folks who are they just don't understand the virus and the importance of being vaccinated, right? They're not even thinking about I think some folks they don't think about the fact that, yes, your kids have to have all their shots up to date, right?
Right.
And I know for me, I was hesitant at first because I was like, where did it come from? But once I got educated about the virus and the fact that it's already been here, this is just a deadly strand that can actually mutate into a more deadlier strand.
Right.
We're seeing that happen right now.
Right.
I had to make a life or death choice, right? And I chose to live. And so I got vaccinated.
Yeah, see, and I was anxious to get vaccinated because while I don't have any underlying conditions except for one, and that's I'm old. and they said you're old.
See, Lakesia,
this is an underlying condition.
This is a generational thing. And Monroe and I are the same generation. He's a little older than me. He tries to cover that up, but we're of the same generation. All right. We basically grew up at the same time, listened to the same music, watched the same shows, all that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest. I'll speak for myself and see if Monroe agrees with this. When I heard there was a vaccine, the doctors were saying there was a vaccine, I'm not going to pretend I did my research. I'm not going to pretend like LeBron. Well, I did my research. Well, LeBron, you didn't do any research. Okay. Stop it. You did not do any research. Okay. All these people, well, Anthony Rizzo of the Cubs. So I'm going to do my research. And no, you're not doing any research. So I didn't pretend. I'm like, oh, the doctors say there's a vaccine. Like, who am I to doubt what like 99% of doctors are saying? I'm like, where do I get this vaccine? Right. And Monroe was the same way. Right. We were like having a race. Who is going to get it first? And he won. Okay. Right. So it's a generational thing. I feel as though, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble with all my millennial friends, but I do believe that the millennials are more susceptible to the BS they hear all around them on Facebook and social media and YouTube Now, Lakesia, I want you to defend your generation and tell me that
I'm a millennial. and I have staff who are millennials too, and they're vaccinated. So I think it's just, it depends on the environment that folks are in, how much of social media that they take in. Because I'm on social media a lot too, but I don't believe everything I see on social media. Again, it was a personal choice. It has to be a choice between living or dying. And at the end of the day, my choice was living. And a lot of folks that I've talked to, my constituents who I encourage, and I held vaccinations at my office, right? And, collaborated and held them at my office as well, and promoted it, that folks will come in once they get that initial education about it, and walk through the process. I think that we could put as many clinics up in these communities as we want. But if we're not like literally honing in and having these one-on-one conversations with these families and then, going from there, the clinics are just there waiting for folks from other communities to come in who want to get vaccinated to take up those resources. It's like, don't wait till the last minute when, anything could happen. Don't wait till the last minute to say, I wish I would have gotten it, or y'all got some more somewhere,
Yeah.
But because the more we go without being vaccinated at, what was it, at 80 to 100% or something like that, the virus is going to keep mutating. And it's going to become resistant to the vaccinations that we have out there now. So then we're looking at another surge of deaths,
Yeah, that was well put. That was a really good riff. And I'm with you 100% on that. And that's why I started the show by saying how much I appreciated what Isaiah Thomas said on the basketball game, in the halftime show of the basketball game last night, where he was just trying to reassure. He was trying to give a different point of view of like how to get Kyrie Irving to change his stance against the vaccine. And he just put it kind of the way you did. It's a health issue here, folks. You're talking about the health of yourself. You're talking about the health of the people you love the most, people like in your family, in your school, in your community. And these basic attitudes have to change. All right, we're going to shift gears and talk probably about the most contentious issue of the day right now, the public feud that has erupted between our Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and our state's attorney, Kimberly Foxx, over prosecuting people who were involved in the shooting or may have been involved in the shooting. It's not clear if they were involved in the shooting. I talked about this at length yesterday with State Senator Robert Peters. If you want to hear what he had to say on the matter from yesterday's show, it's something. It's really kind of on everybody's mind because in part, Lakesia, it's the issue of crime, how to deal with crime, and in the other part, it's just the fear that people have, and then it's the politics and it's the personalities. So we'll start with the most basic, and we'll start with you, State Representative Collins, and then we'll go to Monroe. When you hear Kimberly Foxx defend herself from Mayor Lori Lightfoot, is your reaction one of sympathy to Kimberly Foxx, or is your reaction one as a person who lives in the city of Chicago and just wants someone arrested? I don't care who it is, just arrest someone. Someone's got to be arrested because this crime is so horrific. Just throw someone in jail and then I'll be happy. So what's your response? Go ahead.
That would be going backwards if I was to say just throw someone in jail. You want to bring justice to the right folks, right? I totally get this because I am in this space where, it's easy to say, was this person's fault or is that person's fault? When reality is that it's not one person's fault. I think the violence in the city of Chicago existed long before Kim Foxx became state's attorney, long before Lori Lightfoot became the mayor. I've said this 1,000 times before, Ben, that if we do not address the root causes of violence, such as poverty, lack of access, this ongoing pandemic that we see right now, resources, the violence is still going to exist after State's Attorney Kim Foxx and after Mayor Lightfoot. For me, I feel that there's a lot of layers in curing the violence in the city of Chicago. It's not going to happen overnight. And it doesn't rely just on Kim Foxx's shoulder. Like, we're all going to have to come together and come up with solutions to attack this issue. I think, too, because I have constituents who reach out, the ones who reach out, it's a little bit different from the North Side and the West Side when they talk about this issue, where folks are like, yeah, we need to lock some folks up. And it's like, you get that mentality, then you're locking up innocent people just because of a profile. Because we have to remember, there are people who are biased. And oftentimes, Black men, Black boys, brown men, brown boys are targeted the most because, quote unquote, they fit that profile. So we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward. I don't think this is a time to point fingers at anyone. I think Kim Foxx's response was a good response. It's just, you know, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I just feel that this violence that we're seeing in Chicago is skyrocketing from a number of things. And until we pinpoint and start working at the root causes, we're never going to fix it. It's going to continue to skyrocket.
All right, Monroe, your thoughts?
Yeah, it goes back for 30 years or more. You know, the crime bill that Senator Biden brought us, that became a political liability for him, is one of the root causes, because what that bill did was it resulted in a prison culture in the Black community, because you were sending all these guys to jail. And they were hanging in jail, and so the fashion statement became pants hanging down below your halfway down your butt, because you couldn't get a belt in prison. So that was the look. At one time, they weren't wearing shoelaces because, again, they were taking in prison. They didn't let you have the shoelaces because they didn't want you to strangle yourself with it or something, hang yourself. So they took those away. Then you got, as a result of that, you got gangster rap, and everybody became tough. In the meantime, in all the cities, Chicago included, the industries that can hire people are moving to the suburbs. And so it spiraled down and down and down until now there are a lot of young Black men in this city that don't expect to live to be 21. And so if life doesn't matter, you're not going to live to be 21, then somebody insults you on Facebook, you go shoot them. And there's one other factor. The city was successful in breaking up the gangs, the major gangs, by putting the leaders in jail. And so you have a bunch of little gangs now and wannabe gangs. You have nobody controlling them.
No hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so it's a mess.
Okay, so I buy a lot of what you said. I was afraid you were going to head into Bill Cosby country for a while, but I buy mostly what you said.
No, I wasn't going into Bill Cosby country.
Don't you remember Bill Cosby? Before he got in trouble, would give us lectures about sagging jeans and stuff.
Oh yeah. No, I was pointing.
No, I didn't mean you were going to Bill Cosby country the other way.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Yeah, right.
I did not mean that.
That was an observation. You saw that happening. Yeah, yes. No.
But Monroe, here's the point. And I say this, and I just always want to get perspective on this, because I like what Lakesia was saying. Because we've only tried it one way in the city of Chicago. For as long, I've been in Chicago since '81, and I've been following Chicago politics before that when I was living in Evanston. And it's as long as I can remember, Lakesia Collins and Monroe, there've been people shooting each other in the city of Chicago, and it's like, it's not something that just started when Kimberly Foxx became state's attorney when Lori Lightfoot became mayor. It was happening during the 90s when Richard M. Daley, your beloved mayor of the city of Chicago was your mayor. There were people killing each other left and right.
Going back before that, before you got to Chicago,
Mhm.
When I was a Chicago Tribune reporter, people were killing each other.
Yeah.
In Chicago. I can remember one story where these two brothers were arguing over a TV show and who's one wanted to watch one thing. And this was pre-cable, so you only had 4 channels, so 5 channels. Anyway, they argued over what they were going to watch, and one got a gun and shot the other.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is not a new phenomena by any stretch of the imagination. What is new is that the guns are more lethal and there are a lot more of them.
Yeah.
And they're more accessible to our young folks.
Exactly.
I was reading an article where they were interviewing a 14-year-old male and a 16-year-old. You know, they were just seeing how it's easy to buy a gun offline. And it's cheap for them to buy it offline too. But the 14-year-old stated that, you know, he thought it would be cool to do carjackings and to hit someone up beside their head because he saw it on Grand Theft Auto, which is something that, you know, folks are like, a video game can't make you do that. For a child, it can, because they're conditioned on what they see. And the fact that he said, you know, I thought it was cool, so that's why I did it. Mm-hmm. It says a lot about what our kids are being exposed to. And then again, poverty, and I say it all the time. If you go without for so long, where are you going to go? Your mindset is always trying to survive. If you don't have access to get something here, you're going to go take it there. And that's what we've been seeing. I know I've, you know, been on this earth for 35 years and dealing with violence in the city of Chicago. For me, it's become the norm.
Yeah.
Right. When you hear about these killings, it's not shocking anymore. It's just like it's getting closer and closer to downtown.
Right.
All right. Well, now let's get into the politics of it. Closer and closer to downtown. Yesterday or the day before, Ken Griffin, the richest man in the state of Illinois. I think he's the richest man. If he's not the richest, I apologize to whatever billionaire is ahead of him. And he's also a major funder of the Republican Party, major funder to Bruce Rauner. And he gave a speech where he declared that Chicago is more violent than it's ever been before. And it's every part of the city is dangerous. I think he totally exaggerated, but whatever. He gave his speech. Man, it's First Amendment right to say what he wants. And all the newspapers have been reporting it and saying they treat this man like he's a visionary, you know, because he's rich. We revere wealth in this country so much, Lakesia Collins. Well, he's rich. He must be smart. Anyway, and so he said, well, I may take my company out of the city because that's how dangerous it is, even though I don't know anybody who's employed by his company. So it's not like it's going to hurt the neighborhood of Austin if, oh boy, moves his business to New Jersey, wherever he wants to go. Anyway,
if he was as concerned as he claims to be, what he'd do is bring a factory into the city to give some of these people a job.
Okay, that's not what Kenny G does. Right. He's a money man. He doesn't build factories. Right. He doesn't create jobs and help people.
Yeah, right, exactly. No,
he exchanges things and makes money off of on the deal.
He makes money off of money.
Yes, he makes money off of money, and then all the reporters in Chicago, man, is he smart? Anyway, my question is this: that the reality is, it's become a political issue. Lori Lightfoot is clearly sensing that it's important for her to be in the opposite side of Kimberly Fox on this one than she had been. Lakesia, you know, before. I don't know if you remember this from last year. The last time this thing erupted, there was like a veiled criticism of Kim Fox by Lori Lightfoot. And then when reporters asked her about it, she snapped at the reporters and said, don't you try to put words in my mouth. This is not a he said, she said type of thing. And I love Kim Fox, something like that. And now they're not even that veiled. It's become a political issue, and it's politicians trying to look tougher on crime. And I've watched this one, Monroe and Lakesia. I've seen this show play out when the politicians feel compelled by the Ken Griffins of the world to get tougher on crime. That's when the sweeps of the street come in. You gotta, like I said at the start, someone's gotta be arrested. Let's arrest them. Lakesia, as a state rep, as a person that has to go before the people, for your election, are you feeling the law and order heat right now?
As far as what, folks making me choose a side? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, choose a side and take a strong stand. Go ahead.
look, I support who I want to support. That does not take away from my views and the work that I'm doing as a state rep and how I represent my district, right? I never want to be in a position to where I'm going against another elected official to team up with someone else. And I'm not saying that to say that that's what the mayor is doing. It could be, but that's not what I'm saying she's doing. I'm just saying I never want to be in that position. I support Kim Foxx. I think that Kim has a job where she has to make hard decisions every single day. And yes, she's getting a lot of the blowback from the record long of mishaps that's been happening in that office. And so, you know, for me, it's more of like, how can I, you know, show up as State Representative Lakesia Collins and then be able to have these hard conversations with folks in my district on why I would support her, right? But also, this is what I've done for you. Your choice is your choice, but at the end of the day, don't persecute me for that. And so,
Where are your Black constituents on this, Lakesia?
I haven't had anyone tell me you better not support Kim Foxx.
Yeah.
Even last time when that whole thing came up with her in her last election, you know, I was knocking on doors. I had people ask me, who you supporting? And, you know, I'm like, well, I want you to support me, but yeah, Kim Foxx. I mean, I spoke on your show and told you who I was supporting in the middle of my campaign, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, people on the outside looking in, you know, are always going to think that things should go a certain way until they actually get into that role and realize what they're dealing with, right? So I just think it's a tough job. It's a tough job, period, you know, being an elected official and living on a public platform. Because people are never going to be satisfied and they're going to always judge you over anything. So.
Yeah, Lakesia, before you were born, 1978, I was at 26 in California for the Tribune, covering the courts. And it was the most depressing time, one of the most depressing times in my career, because being out there was this whole us versus them mentality where the cops were white, the prosecuting attorneys were white, and all the people going through the system were Black for the most part. I mean, 80, 90%. It was amazing. And it had this racial tinge to it that was occasionally voiced, but it was mainly a you understand that we got to keep these natives under control. And it was very depressing to me. And so Kim, what she's done, she's come there, and basically what she's saying is, we're not going to stick every Black person we can get our hands on in jail. And we're not going to keep them there because they can't afford to post bail. And so I applaud her for that. And maybe some of the violence that's going on may be because some people are out on the streets that should be kept behind bars. But I think overall it's a better move to try to have a less punitive judicial system.
Monroe, do you think Monroe lives on the north side? We say this all the time. Do you think most of your white neighbors agree with you on that?
No, they don't. They don't. There's this community newspaper website we have called Next Door Neighbor or something like that, and where people write. It's like Facebook for the city. And they write their opinions, and they want to know where they can get a babysitter or a nanny or where a good plumber is, et cetera. But they also comment all the time on the crime. They talk about the porch pirates. They talk about the robberies. They talk about how they're afraid to go downtown now because it's so dangerous. This used to be a beautiful city, but now the crime, because of the mayor and because of Fox, these people feel that they can do crime anywhere and anytime at will because they're not going to be punished for it. So that's the mentality of most white people, from what I can tell. Not all, but a lot of, at least those that are being vocal. That's the opinion.
Well, I mean, even if you think that way, it's like, well, who's to blame for the violence that was happening before then, right?
Right.
Because again, there was violence or some type of crime happening on each side of Chicago. It just looked different. You might have more shootouts on the west side and the south side. On the north side, you have more robberies, right?
Yeah.
Non-violent robberies over here. Now they're becoming more physical and more, people are using guns and things like that now. And you have kids who have more access to guns. And so again, for me, it goes to, I look at everything like all of this is a puzzle, right? The state's attorney office can't fix this alone.
Right.
The mayor's office can't fix it alone. The lawmaker, we can't fix it alone. We have to be able to collaborate together. And sometimes you just don't see that. You see everybody going against each other. But honestly, it's going to take everyone. And people are going to respond to this violence differently. But I have some older Black folks who are like, I'm afraid to walk down the street. My seniors, I'm afraid to go down the street past 5 o'clock. Like, no one should feel unsafe.
Right.
And, we can't just point one finger. We have to make sure that we're, getting a whole scope and attacking it all together. So.
All right. I'm going to close with this. And this, again, a generational thing. I apologize to Lakesia. She's like, why? These are old people on this show. It's been on my mind.
Lakesia, you are being taken to old school.
I respect my elders.
Thank you. You got two of them right here. So this has been on my mind, Monroe, and I sent you the little the newsletter I wrote for the reader. I saw a picture on Facebook the other day of Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, visiting Uptown in the 1980s. Tom Clark, I believe, took it. Shout out, Tom. And Harold Washington, the greatest mayor the city of Chicago ever had, was in the picture and brought back a flood of memories. But I started thinking about Jimmy Carter. It was, and Tom had put it on his Facebook page, the picture, because Jimmy Carter just turned, I think it was 97. Good guy, 97 years old. Yeah. He's even older than me and Monroe.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking with a tremendous amount of appreciation for Jimmy Carter, ex-president, the life he's led post-presidency. And just the fact that he would do things like go into a neighborhood with his church group and build affordable housing, with hammering the nails himself. And I just started thinking about the other ex-president who comes to Chicago from time to time, Barack Obama, who was in town for the dirt digging ceremony of the Obama Center, which will be a gentrifier on the south side. We had, at this very time last week, Dixon Romeo, young activist from the south side, Monroe, was on with Monroe and myself, and he was talking about gentrification on the south side and really opened my mind. And Monroe, I just had a profound amount of respect for the way Jimmy Carter has gone about his life post-president. Most powerful man in the world. And yet once he left that power, it seems to me that he just thought about how he can make the world a better place and didn't think about how he can make Jimmy Carter wealthy. Whereas Barack Obama seems to be about building the brand, being a celebrity, making money, and building these grandiose tributes to himself. Am I being too unfair to Barack Obama? Monroe Anderson, go.
Yes, you are. First of all, since Roosevelt or somebody way back when, they've been building presidential libraries. This is not starting with Barack Obama. What's actually kind of nice about what he's doing is going to be an active center, not just a warehouse for books and papers. But young Blacks are going to be able to come there and learn leadership, et cetera. But the reality as for presidents is that presidential libraries are like pyramids were for the ancient Egyptians. It's a monument to them and what they did, and that's just like it's going to be interesting to see what the Trump library looks like. but anyway, and the Obama has not gone on the mission that Carter went on. But there's a couple of things for that. Is that Carter he was a peanut farmer when he started, and he had a failed presidency, and so he's trying to rectify the things he blew. He decided he's going to do that. He was not a good president. He was going to be the best after president ever, and he has been. There's no question about that. Obama had a successful presidency, although he was hobbled every which way by the Republicans, and he got through it. He gave us Obamacare, among other things, and he's still young. And 5 years from now, he may be building houses for the poor. But right now, he's just enjoying his celebrity and opportunities that he didn't have before.
All right, Lakesia, we'll give you the final word. Am I being too unfair to Barack Obama?
I mean, your opinion is your opinion, but for me, I agree with Monroe. I agree with him on this one. I would like to see, Obama do more in the city of Chicago. And I can only speak from what I would do, but, to put a library in that area where we know gentrification is going to happen, and we're not being real about the conversation. Because I've heard the stories. I haven't really focused on it as much, and that's just me being honest. But I've heard the stories. I do know Dixon Romeo. He talked about it. But I've also heard from other folks who live on the South Side and how they felt. It's a lot of mixed, feelings about it, right? Folks want to see a presidential library over there. Folks, love Obama. And then you have some folks who are just like, you're about to displace a whole lot of people, and I'm not for displacement, right? But I do believe that, this happens all the time, and he should be no different. But at the same time, we should make sure that folks can keep their home and enjoy the presidential library, the ones who live there. So it's a battle, right?
My favorite part of what you had to say was, I'm entitled to my own opinion, which is generally a nice way of saying, what a dumbass opinion. That's kind of like me talking about Kyrie Irving. Well, Kyrie, you're entitled to your own opinion. But
right? Seriously, the west side of Chicago, because that's where I represent, that's where I'm focused on, right? Is that folks want to see development. My goal and my main point has always been, we can have development without displacement, but we have to have conversations. We have to have community agreements. We have to make sure that we're securing the folks who live there, who are second and third generations. And so if that's not happening on the south side of Chicago, then yes, we're looking at a massive of gentrification. Folks are going to lose out. I don't think folks are really thinking about that right now, but that is eventually what will happen, right? So for me, again, it's for me, it's a mixed feeling, because yes, I would love to see that. But at the same time, I worry about the families who are there.
I wanted the Obama Library on the West Side. It's not. Lakesia, there was a proposal for a site. I don't think it was in your district. I think it's a little south of where you are, for area off of Roosevelt Road. It would be built in conjunction with UIC. That was one I was rooting for. This is about 6 or 7 years ago, and the Obamas made it clear they wanted it on the South Side. It was their choice. It's his library, and Michelle Obama's from the South Side, so the West Side got overlooked again. But I'm with you 100%. It would have been really nice had the Obama Center gone on the West Side.
But there's a history on the West Side that sometimes get overlooked too.
Yes.
So.
All right, very good. We've run out of time. Monroe Anderson, Lakesia Collins, thank you so much. State Representative Collins, we've got to get you back on more often. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And also want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible, and that would be the producer. And as Monroe and Lakesia will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everyone.
All right. Thank you.